Hello everyone! Today I'm going to share with you my labor and delivery story. I was hoping that I would have done this video long ago, but my little one decided to bake for as long as possible. So yeah, let's get started. My due date was on the 14th of June, the day that I completed my 40th week. I didn't have any signs of early labor before that. I didn't have any Braxton Hicks, I didn't have my show, meaning I didn't lose my mucus plug. I was really hoping that my baby would come on the due date, but I could see that I had no signs of labor and I could see that my body wasn't really preparing for labor, so I knew that the 14th of June was out of the picture. Day by day I was hoping within that week, before I completed the 41 week, that the signs would start, but again nothing happened. So the following week I had an appointment with my midwife where she asked me if I would like to have a membrane sweep, which of course I did. We tried to do it, but unfortunately it failed. My cervix wasn't dilated enough for her to reach to the membrane, and also she couldn't really do it properly because I had the posterior cervix and the baby's head was in front of it and it was complicated. She managed to bring it forward a bit, but she couldn't do much, so that day was not successful. She told me that I could have another membrane sweep in 72 hours. They couldn't do one earlier because of the high risk of infection. I agreed to that and we booked another appointment to go and try to do another membrane sweep. In the meantime, I did have my show. I lost my mucus plug, and that's why I did give them a call before the appointment to ask them if I could still go or if I had to wait for contractions or for the labor to start by itself. But they said that it doesn't matter if you lose your mucus plug, they can still try to do a membrane sweep. So I went for my appointment. Thank God it was successful at the time. I was very scared because I had seen some videos and they said that it's extremely painful, but it wasn't too bad, to be honest. It is extremely uncomfortable, but it wasn't very painful. I'm glad that it was successful. I had an idea that within the 24 to 48 hours most women they go in labor after they have the membrane sweep, so I was mentally prepared for that. On that day I forgot to tell you that I did have a lot of cramps. They were of course irregular and very short, so I thought that it would be Braxton Hicks. On that night, after I had a membrane sweep, I slept fine. I had no pains. I was really mentally prepared to go in labor that night or the following day, and I got so disappointed when I saw that nothing happened. And not only nothing happened, but I felt even better than before I had a membrane sweep. I had no pains, I had no discomfort. I had a membrane sweep on the 17th. They told me that I will have another appointment on the 24th to discuss with my midwife again what are my options if I don't go in labor until then. That midwife that she did the membrane sweep, it wasn't my midwife, it was another lady. She was very positive that I would go in labor within the next 2 days because of how low he was. So she was really positive that I would go in labor before my next appointment with midwife. So again, it was something that is stuck in my head and I was really preparing to go in labor. So when I didn't, I got disappointed. On the 22nd, I started noticing some watery discharge. It was still mucus, but it was clear and it had more of a watery consistency than before. But I didn't really focus on that because it was still mucus, it was still discharged, it had a bit of yellow in there, which was the color that I normally have. But then on the 23rd, when I woke up in the morning, I felt some liquid coming out. It was an extremely small drop, so again I didn't consider that it could be my waters breaking. But the night before, on the 22nd, I had read a story about a lady that she thought that her water broke, but because it was such a small amount, the midwives and doctors, they told her that it was not possible that that was her water because of the small amount and because she wouldn't wet a pad. And when she went to the hospital, the baby had sepsis because it was indeed her waters and they didn't pay attention to it, they didn't care enough, I don't know how to say it, and she had difficult delivery and the baby had to stay in NICU and it was complicated. So I decided not to risk it, and when I noticed that liquid, although it was a very small amount, I did give a call to the hospital and I explained to them. They told me to go in so I can have a test. They have like a strip where you wee on. Actually, it's not a strip. What I did was exactly like a rapid COVID test. You have this swab, you take a sample and test it to see if there is amniotic fluid in it, and they put it in some like liquid they have, and then you put it on the cartridge, and if it's one line is negative, there is no amniotic fluid. If there was two lines, then there is amniotic fluid, and thankfully there was a faint line and I did have amniotic fluid in the discharge. That means that my water had started breaking, not from the bottom. They say that when your water breaks from the top, then it drips, but I guess it was only a tiny bit of, I don't know how to say hole. I don't know if it's a hole exactly. I'm not an expert, but it was an extremely small amount of amniotic fluid. That means that my baby was still fine. He had still plenty of amniotic fluid, so he has no problems. So when they did the test, they told me that they could either induce me that moment so I can start going in labor, or because it was such a little amount of amniotic fluid, then I could wait for the night to pass, see if my body would go in labor, and if nothing happened, then the following day on the 24th of June, 10:30 in the morning, I would have to go to the hospital for an induction. I thought that since it's not a very long period of time, I should wait a bit longer and see if my body decides to do something by itself. If not, I would go for the induction. The night passed. I would wake up every 1 hour to go and wee. As you can see, I got interrupted. He woke up, so for the rest of the video I'm gonna be holding him with me. At 5:30 in the morning, I wake up to go to the toilet. I felt cramps. I came back to bed, still painful, and then I realized that maybe it could be contractions. So I already had downloaded an app on my phone to monitor the contractions. So I started using that and I could see that they were irregular, but they were contractions. It was the real deal. So I got out of the bed because I couldn't sleep anymore. The pain was there and I couldn't sleep through it. I was moving around, walking around, I was sitting on my birth ball, or I was squatting on the floor and just resting on my stress ball. Around 8 o'clock they started getting more intense. Thank God my mom was there, so she pushed me to call the hospital. I didn't want to call them because my contractions were still 7-8 minutes apart and they were irregular. They were not like some of them they were lasting 40 seconds, some of them they were lasting 1 minute. I didn't want to call them yet because I knew that they wouldn't say something, but because she was seeing how much pain I was, she just urged me to call them and just see what they're gonna say. So I did, and like I thought, they said once they're regular, like 5-6 minutes apart and lasting more than 1 minute, then I should call them again, or they continue being irregular, then I should go at 10 o'clock or 10:30 as the plan was for the induction. I waited a bit longer, but around 9:30 they became very painful. I started using my tennis machine at home and I'm so grateful that I had bought it because it really helped me a lot. It could help me not focus on the contraction pain that much and be able to manage it better. So around 9:30, 10 o'clock we went to the hospital and they checked me in, and the midwife who came to check me in checked my dilation, and I was dilated at 6 centimeters, which I didn't really believe, because I've heard all the stories that first time moms, the process is so slow and you are in extreme pain and you're still dilated like 3 centimeters. So when she said that I was dilated 6 centimeters, I was extremely happy. Of course I couldn't show it because I was in pain, but I was extremely happy that okay, we're more than 5 or 6, we have 4 to go, let's do it. It took me around 10:30, and then until 1 p.m. the pain was bearable. I could speak through, not a lot. I couldn't speak through most of the contractions, but I could manage them, I could handle them. I was using my TENS machine. Initially, I closed it every time the contraction would stop, and I would turn it on when the contraction was coming back. But as the time passed, the contractions don't really go at all. They remain and they just become more intense. So I started keeping my TENS machine on at all times. I was just decreasing the power it had. But after 1 p.m. the pain became unbearable. I was one of these people that I didn't want any medications. I wanted an unmedicated delivery. I want to try a water birth, and I want to see how painful it is, because I have very bad period cramps, and I want to see how bad the labor pain is. After 1 p.m. the pain became unbearable. I put my TENS machine to the maximum, could still feel the contraction. I was doing my breathing exercises. I was trying hard not to scream out of pain. I didn't manage not to scream at all, because I could hear another lady screaming next door. I think she was giving birth before me, and you know, it's very emotional, and I couldn't keep it down. So a few times I had to shout and I screamed because of how tired I was, because of the pain, because of the emotion. It was a little bit of everything. And she checked me around 2:30 again, and she didn't tell me exactly how dilated I was, but she told me that there was a little bit of cervix remaining, so I couldn't push yet. I was trying hard, I was walking around. After some time I couldn't do it anymore, so what we did, and it was a great choice, we seated up the hospital bed and stayed with my niece and resting on the back of the bed. My mom was there with me, and I'm very grateful for that. And every time I had a contraction, I was squeezing her hand so much. I was afraid I'm going to break it, and I managed not to scream my head out. So the last 2 hours before I gave birth, every time I had a strong contraction, I was just taking deep breaths, squeezing my mom's hand, and focusing on how I should remain strong for the delivery, so I can have a bit of energy to push. Finally, at 3:30, I was feeling the urge to push more, and within a few pushes, my baby arrived. The pain, I won't say that it was painful when I was pushing. I'll say that it was burning me. It felt like fire. I didn't have to push a lot. I think I pushed 3-4 times and he came out. The moment he came out and I held him in my arms, everything disappeared. And even now, when I think about it, I know and I remember it was painful, but I'm like, it wasn't that bad. When I gave birth, the first moments I was saying, you know what, I'm not doing that again like that. Next time I'm gonna take medications. I was adamant that I would never do the same thing again. But now that we're 1 week old and I have him in my arms, I'm like, it wasn't too bad, was it? I mean, managed, I survived. I was in pain for a few hours, but after that, it's all done. So I was healthy, I had a few tears, but nothing major, and I'm happy for that. He was healthy, he was born 3 kilos and 380 grams. They did keep us overnight to monitor him because they were not really sure when they should consider that my water had broken. They didn't know if it was more than 24 hours or more than 48 hours because of how complicated it was. The fact that I had the mucus discharge, which was a bit watery, but I never felt my water breaking. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to say, that my waters, like this that you feel, they broke 1 hour before I delivered. Did keep us overnight. They monitored him. He was fine. His temperature dropped once to 36.3, so they took him to the other room so they can warm him up, and then a half an hour after they brought him back to me and he was fine. I had a very good delivery. All in all, I'm very grateful and thankful to God that everything went smoothly. It's painful, it will be painful no matter what, and it could have a lot of complications, but I'm happy that nothing went wrong and we're both healthy and we're home now and trying to adjust to the new life and to the new reality. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I'm sorry if it seems like it's in a rush, but it's hard to find the balance at the beginning because you have a new little human to look after that he doesn't have a schedule, and you have to get used to each other and get to know each other, your habits and everything. So I hope next ones will be better and we'll have more time. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and until the next video, take care. Bye.